p.m. Roll call. I don't have any. Myself, I'm present. Vice Chair Austin Pratt.
Present.
Recorder Atlas Pearson. He'll be here shortly. John Carlson.
Here.
And Priest Martinez.
Here.
All right. So consent agenda item number 2, approval of minutes from March 11th, 2024 meeting. Anybody have anything on the minutes? Any corrections?
I have none.
Okay. Somebody want to make a motion?
I motion to accept the minutes from the last meeting, March 11th, 2024.
I'll approve that.
Second
Or
by
I'll second it.
second
Sorry.
by John. That's fine. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Hearing none. Okay. So item number 3, discussion and possible action, including acceptance of an update from Scott DeLeon regarding the road paving project. You want to? Does he need to use one of these microphones, or? Welcome and thank you for coming.
You want to just come up here and sit with them? I can do that. Okay, perfect. Awesome.
We're gonna make room up here for you.
Sit up here at the big
Yeah,
table.
yeah.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm Scott DeLeon. I'm the Public Works and Water Resources Director. I appreciate the invitation and the opportunity to come and meet with you all today. And basically, I don't really have a whole lot of a presentation. What I wanted to do is make myself available for questions. Supervisor Crandall mentioned you're interested in a couple of things. The road plan that the county is developing, and then also trees in the right-of-way. So we can talk about those things, and then be happy to answer any additional questions. I know from speaking at the East Region Town Hall that there was quite a bit of concern along the north shore of the road plan, and how originally our draft plan showed the communities along the North Shore being some of the first communities that were going to get treated, and then we switched that and moved it around, and now Cobb Mountain is up first, and it kind of reversed the rotation. And my presentation to the East Region Town Hall was to tell them that that's a plan. It doesn't mean it's that you're going to be year 10. It means that it's a 10-year plan. We're going to try to do projects as funding is available. And the reason we moved Cobb to the first instead of last is largely due to the impacts from the fire. The fire in 2015 destroyed, the fire itself damaged roads, but we were really damaged by the cleanup efforts of all the homes that were damaged on Cobb. The roads, I mean, yes, your roads are not good, but if you ever drove up on Cobb and saw some of the roads and the conditions those folks are dealing with, I think you'd recognize that that they should be the priority. So we're completing the plans and specs for that project. It's going to go out to bid later this month for construction later this summer. And then the other thing that we're going to be doing is starting the plans for future road projects to include the North Shore. We'll get the plans and specs put together, and then as funding is available, then we'll be able to do these projects. The Cobb Mountain project right now, the estimate is at about $9 million to do those roads, and then we'll start putting plans together for next year's project and probably the next 2 or 3 years, to include getting the plans and specs done for these North Shore communities, and kind of lumping them together so that we can try to encourage some of the bigger contractors to come up to Lake County and do these projects. The road department, the Public Works Department has been kind of salting away funds from SB1. It was the gas tax that was enacted several years ago. We have enough funds for certainly year one and probably year two, but we're going to need some help for those future projects, because they are large projects. They're anywhere from 8 to 10, upwards of $12 million per project, depending on how many roads we put into the plan. So they're sizable projects. Looking forward to getting this one done up on Cobb. And again, it's not set in stone, the order with which we're going to get this work done. I should also note that, every time you get a presidential change, and not suggesting there's going to be one, but it seems like every president that comes in wants to outdo the previous one and make more funding available. And so what our goal is to have those plans and specs ready to go for the projects, so that when funding becomes available, we can throw our hat in the ring for special congressional money or funding that's been made available through the federal government for these types of projects. So we're excited about that. Just looking forward to getting this first project completed. So with that, I'll be happy to try to answer any questions. Yes, sir.
I don't know if it's possible or not, just something that I was curious about was, so,
I don't think that mic's on, so.
yeah, press that, there you go. So you're gonna come in and get all of Cobb done, complete, and then move on to the next area? So my question is, I don't know if it's feasible, or I know I was in construction. So, like say the North Shore, instead of come down and do all of the Oaks, and then all of Nice, and all of Lucerne in a year, and a year, and a year, is there some way that they could come in and say, do the worst roads in so much, and divide it and do in 1 year the worst roads in Lucerne and the worst roads in Upper Lake, so that everybody's getting a little something, instead of somebody just saying, oh wow, all of ours is fixed up, and move on? And that way, when funding does fizzle out, maybe we could all have some good roads.
Yep, that's actually a great idea. And it's funding and repair type dependent, if that makes any sense. What we'd want to do is tackle roads that all have the same type of repair. So let's just pick full depth reclamation and 3 inches asphalt. And we would tackle the roads that would need that type of reconstruction, and absolutely we could spread those out so that you get a few roads in every community. I'm not a big fan of tackling the worst roads first. However, I also understand the logic behind that.
Yeah, because my understanding is, like, there's a grade on roads like 1, 2, 3, 4, for an example, and once you hit a certain, and that each number is like the worst condition it's in, and so they take more work, and then once you get to the top, then you just got to take it out and put it in.
Right.
So, okay.
Yeah, that's what you're referring to as the Pavement Condition Index, or PCI. And we have that updated every 2 years by a consulting firm that comes in, evaluates the roads in the county. And yet you're absolutely right. The lower the number, once the roads reach 25, it's considered failed out of 100. And once it's reached that number, it's failed, and yeah, you're into rebuilding. And the lower and worse off the road, the more expensive it is to maintain.
Right, so you could, with the better the shape they're in, you could get a lot more roads fixed for the same amount of money.
Absolutely. Yep. We're doing this with a combination of contracted work and local crews. We purchased a new chip seal machine last year through some grant funding, by the way, that was made available from the federal government for COVID relief. And there were no restrictions on how you could use the money, and so we leveraged that to purchase a new chip chip seal cart. The one we had was actually a hand-me-down from Sonoma County, and it was a 1980 something deal. So I mean, it was a 40-year-old machine, and we actually had to send a maintenance person from our central garage maintenance crew to ride on the machine to keep it running while we were working with it. So it was not a very reliable machine. So we have a brand new machine. We used it a lot last year. It's really, really good, and we're really efficient with it. So we're doing this work with a combination of contracted crews and our crews. But I appreciate the question.
Well, and then the only other question I have is, when you have these, when you decide, when you do the planning for what's next and like that, will it be open to the public to where we can have public input or not?
Generally not. And with all due respect, what ends up happening there, as you can imagine, is you know, you get a lot of input, and I should be ahead of that guy, and we're kind of like an umpire here. You're going to make 50% of the people mad depending on the call. But I like your idea about tackling, you know, instead of all the roads in Clear Lake Oaks, you know, picking some roads and spreading that out. I like that idea. I'll talk it over with the consultant, and again, it'll be a little dependent on repair strategy. Because what we don't want to do is have different repair strategies in different locations, because now you're talking about different pieces of equipment, more mobilization. If we can keep it to certain types of road rehab, that would be the most effective and cost-effective way of getting that done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What is your estimated finish date on this project? Is it going to go for 3 years, 5 years, 2 years?
It's probably 10.
10 years?
Yes.
Wow.
And that's largely driven by funding and availability of funding.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So I can certainly answer other questions. Yes, sir.
So when you say 10 years, is that like the longest that it would possibly take and could be done sooner, or is that just like the plan that it's going to take regardless?
Yeah, it's not set in stone. What we did is we picked a time frame so I'll give you some additional history here. What I originally planned on was a 5-year plan.
Okay.
But it was, to do that, we needed $20 to $22 million a year for these projects. We don't have that. So what we did is, all right, well, let's do 10 years, and what does that look like? So yeah, it cut the project cost roughly in half, but it's still, you know, it's still 10 to 15 million a year needed for those types of projects. So that was the reasoning behind extending it from 5 years to 10.
Awesome.
Yep.
So Charlie was just asking me a question, and I felt like I should probably say it is, depending on funding, of course, and that's basically where it comes to the board, where we got to figure out ways to get funding. I know one of the discussions we've had before is trying to find ways to, what was it, I think a lot of counties actually either borrow money somehow against what they have or something like that, and we haven't never done that. So
You're right. There is a bond process. City of Clear Lake recently did that and got a pretty good influx of cash for projects. The issues with bonds is you have to have a way to pay that back. It's not free. You have to have a way to pay it back. And so to get a bond, you have to demonstrate that you got the money to pay that back over time, and that's where reliance on gas tax, for example, their lending folks are going to look not as favorably at reliance on gas tax versus if, say, for example, there was the community did a sales tax measure that was specific for transportation, which is what the city of Clear Lake did. Then those lending institutions look at that and they say, okay, that's a pretty consistent and solid revenue source that the city has, and they're able to bond on that.
Isn't the bond plus interest?
Yes. Yep.
Just had a question about our avenues in particular. I mean, I'm familiar with most of the North Shore and emergency response in the entire North Shore. And our avenues here in particular are really awful. And if there any way to grind and chip seal them or do anything, because taking patients down these avenues with broken bones or hips, femurs is excruciating, and I don't have enough morphine or fentanyl to give to these people in order to get them out of here, and our ambulances don't ride like Cadillacs.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, if it was you experiencing it, I don't think you would want that, because every single bump, especially an unstable fracture, is the two bones grinding against each other. So, if there's any way to do something to make our avenues better for our residents, would be great.
Okay. I appreciate that perspective. Having broken some things, and I can't even imagine what that must feel like, and certainly they are not very good. There's a lot of trench settlement laterals and different things that have occurred over the years, and they're challenging because until they stop settling, you can come in and do something, and then it's going to continue. But I appreciate that question and certainly that perspective.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
You said something about an evaluation process that you go through to determine the degree. Is that done once, or is it on a continuum basis?
Yeah.
Because like this last winter, we've just seen locally just a
Right.
whole lot of deterioration of something that's already bad.
Yeah, so I'll repeat that question just for that, and the question was, the process that we do when we do pavement evaluation, is it done annually, is it, how frequently, and certainly we, after actually last winter too, and this year, we've seen a lot of degradation, and we have that update done, it's every 2 years. And it's done by a consultant. It's been the same consultant for about the last 10 years, so the results are very consistent. And you're right, our average pavement condition index continues to decline. You're correct. And the last 2 winters, especially, roads do not react well when there's a lot of water on them, and that's the potholes and all the things that you experience are the result of moisture getting underneath the pavement, and then the traffic and the bounce and everything that happens when you start getting that pothole, is that ground just becomes liquid basically, and it comes out of the ground, and that's what creates that pothole. So when you have pavement or surfacing that has lots of cracks in it, and the water goes in those cracks and saturates the subgrade underneath your road, then you're going to have nothing but problems. It's made worse by garbage trucks, their excessive weights, and their movement is exceptionally difficult to handle, and it's really difficult on roads. So yes, we've seen significant degradation of the roads as a result of the last couple of winters. Yep. The last pavement condition, we had it done 2023 was when we had the last pavement evaluation. So it'll happen again in 2025. You're welcome.
So, yeah, it's on. As far as runoff from the hills, we live out in Riviera 2 on Rosemont Drive. A lot of runoff from the hills behind us
is, in the paving project, is it going to include anything as far as better drainage for some of these areas? Or are we still going to be having that much of a problem because of the hill back there?
So one of the things that we do prior to this, and we did it up on Cobb, is we did an analysis of all the culverts, took a look at the ones that have historically been undersized, ones that are degrading, and so all of that, you don't want to pave a road and then have a culvert collapse underneath it or a culvert failure. So we're going through and repairing all those or replacing them, doing a lot of drainage and ditch work. And if there's a problem with a culvert being undersized, then yeah, that would be addressed.
Yeah, well, Rosemont, for instance, there's culverts or in a drainage ditch on one side of the street. On our side of the street, there is none. So we get a little river running down our side. When it rains hard, of course, it overflows the ditches on the other side.
Okay.
And it's all over the street.
Sure.
And I mean, we got 6 inches of water down in a low spot down where it meets Hendricks over there.
Okay.
And, one of the county crew actually came out the other day and patched a big pothole out in front of our place there that people kept running through and making it worse, of course,
Right.
know. And you know how, you know.
Yeah, no, that's what happens with them.
And that's
Yeah.
exactly what they do,
Yeah.
And the more water that gets into it, the softer it gets, and
Yep.
the more stuff comes out of it.
And
I
the more
mean,
they hit it, the bigger it
It was a
gets.
good 6, 8 inches deep.
Yeah.
And they came out and put some asphalt patch in there
Yeah.
anyway, so, but that's what I was curious about as far as that, because the more water, as you say, that comes down the roadway, gets in these cracks, it makes it even worse.
Yeah.
And that's what's degraded a lot of it, especially since the last year and a half here.
So one of the things that we also do, and I purposely haven't got into a lot of the details of how we do these projects because we would be here all night.
Yeah.
One of the things that we do is we work with the foreman, the consultant that we have that does these plans works with our crews and our road superintendent and our foreman. And we go and look at these roads and the foremen talk about, okay, for example, your foreman in this district spent his entire life in Upper Lake, and he knows these roads really, really well. He would very likely say, hey, I've got a problem on Rosemont here. This is what happens, and that would be addressed as part of that road plan. Absolutely.
All right, thanks.
Yeah. Because we recognize that you can rebuild the road, but until you address the drainage, you're putting a Band-Aid on it, and it's a really expensive Band-Aid. So do a little additional work and take care of that drainage and help that thing last a lot longer. Yep.
I had a question about the potholes. So I walk the avenues almost every day of the week. And on First, I noticed that there were some potholes that were patched and then others skipped over. And somebody had mentioned something, so I don't know the validity to it, that they needed to be at least 3 inches in depth in order to get them patched.
Well, I'm not sure that that's a.
I'm just saying that's
I'm not sure
what,
that that's a hard and fast rule.
that's why I brought it
Yeah,
up to you.
yeah, no, I don't, I'm not sure I've heard that rule.
But it's just that, like walking by,
Yeah.
one pothole's patched here.
Right.
I know EJ's probably noticed that as well, that some were addressed and then others were skipped over. So I'm not sure what the rationale for
Yeah.
that was.
I'm not gonna be able to answer that question.
Okay, I
'cause
just didn't know if you had
can't-
some
Yeah.
sort of grading for
I
potholes.
don't think it's 3 inches minimum. I don't think that's the case. However, I have seen where they focus on potholes that are in the normal wheel track, or if they have limited amount of material, and it's, they need to just get what they can, they'll hit the bigger ones. But I don't think that we have a,
So you've dispelled a rumor, at least. Okay.
Well, trust me, I'm going to ask the question when I get back to the office tomorrow, but I don't think we have one.
Okay.
All right. But I do appreciate the question. And let me also address something. You hear a lot about potholes are very popular. They're a popular topic, or unpopular, I guess. People say you come and fill the pothole and 3 weeks later, the pothole's back. You know, why can't you do the job right the first time? Well, let me explain a couple things about pothole patching. The product we're using right now during the wintertime, when it's cold, when it's wet, is a product called AWP, all-weather patch. It is not permanent. It is specifically designed to go in when the weather's cold. It's flexible material. You can put it when there's water at the bottom of the pothole. It is a patch, and it is temporary. And more traffic on top of it, more rain on top of it, it's going to come out. It will. It's not a permanent patch. The product that we use in the summertime is called a DuraPatch machine, and it is basically oil, heated oil, and chips, little gravel, and it basically builds a pothole using the same techniques that you use for chip seal, where you put an oil emulsion down and then you put the chips down, and so you're building a series of layers in that pothole, and that is a much more permanent fix to that pothole. So you see a pothole get patched this time of year, it's with all-weather patch, and it's probably not going to stay there. You had a question?
Better not having the pot, or better not having the whole thing opened. Huh? Oh, just a quick question on easements between our property line and the street. So we've got probably 6-7 foot easement between the property line and the actual street on Hendricks and Rosemont. All the trucks, the garbage trucks, the UPS trucks, they cut the corner at Hendricks and Rosemont, and it's encroaching up closer and closer to the corner where our fence is. Is there anything that the county can do to come out and just put some reflectors on the corner so they stop doing that? Or, I'm sure I know why they're doing it, because it's right there is where it puddles. We've got 12 inches of water down there sometimes at that corner, so they're not watching what they're doing. They're just going through the puddle, and they're slowly but surely keep coming up the bank there of the easement.
So I'm not going to remember everything that we talk about here
Sure.
tonight. So, but here's what I want you to do. You have a piece of paper there. I want you to, if you have something to write with, I want you to write down 263-2341.
He's prepared, though.
I see that.
2341, you said, correct?
Yep. And that is the number to our main office. And what I'd like for you to do is call tomorrow and talk to one of the nice people that answers the phone and ask them, tell them what the problem is, what the location is, and request something be done to either put some delineators or something up at that corner to try to keep people from, or the delivery trucks from cutting the corner. What's going to happen is that request is going to get put into a system, and it's going to be tracked. And at the end of the month, a report comes to me, and it tells me all the service requests. What you're going to be doing is what we call a service request. What happens is I get a report at the end of the month that shows me all the service requests that were made per road district, and it shows me the ones that were addressed. And then if I notice that things aren't getting addressed over a couple of months, then I get to ask questions about why hasn't this been taken care of. And the road foremen take great pride in minimizing the number of requests that haven't been addressed at the end of the month that come to my seat that I see.
So they don't want to talk to you after you see it hadn't been done, I know.
They prefer that I am happy.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, thanks, Scott.
Yeah, and that brings me to a point that I'd like to make. I speak at a lot of these, and I hear folks say, you know, I called your department and I never got a return call. Well, what you probably did is you probably called my road area, one of the yards, and why our phone numbers to the yards are available, I don't know, because to be honest with you, these guys don't do a good job of listening to messages. Where you want to send your request is to the main office, because as I explained, that report goes into a computer system. I mean, our computer system that records and tracks these things. And the reason we do that is so that when elected official wants to know how much time did you spend on this road, or how many potholes did you patch, we have work orders for the activities that the guys are doing per road. That's how we track our expenses. It's a function of government accounting, cost accounting that we have to do. And so when we get a pothole complaint about something on Country Club, we record, there's a pothole on Country Club, it's at approximately this address, it was called in by this person on this date. And we send that to the area foreman. He schedules that and he comes out and he patches it. And when he patches it, now I have a record of who was out there, when, what equipment they used, how much material they used for patching potholes. That all gets recorded. The best way for your road complaints best way for you to ensure that your road complaint gets addressed is to call that number that I just gave you.
The other way is also online.
Yes.
You can go online and make it one. I know I made one before for somebody, and like, bam, they gave a response and an email right away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We maintain a Facebook page. Please go to our Facebook page.
They're
You
pretty
can
good
talk
at
to
that,
Lori. She manages that almost, well, it's one of her jobs is to manage that. So road complaints come into our Facebook page all the time. She transfers that information over into the system and it becomes a road complaint. So yes, please use those tools to get to us. Supervisor Crandall, you wanted to talk about trees, or what was the concern about trees?
So last month, we went on to 13th, and I think I sent the pictures of the trees that were growing. There was a giant oak tree, right? Walnut, okay. And so the concern was that it was close to your house, I think, and then another house and whatnot. So I just wanted to make sure that they understood, or we all understood, what happens with trees like that, because it's in the county, I guess, area of responsibility or something like that.
Okay.
So I just wanted to.
So let's talk about trees in the right of way, and let's not talk about the one that you're concerned about for right now. Let's just talk about the process. We can't possibly manage every tree that's in the road right of way. That's not what we do. Of course, when trees fall, we have to fix them and we have to cut them up and get them out of the road. But we don't maintain trees that are in the right of way. If we are notified that there's a tree that is damaged, or it's dead, or it's starting to lean, then we have to maintain that. We have to go deal with that tree because it's posing a threat to the road and the traveling public. That's called constructive notice, is the fancy term for that. Oftentimes when a tree falls and someone's been damaged, either their vehicle was damaged or the tree falls and lands on their home, they file a claim against the county and they say, well, you should have taken care of that tree. Well, that's not what we do. However, if we have constructive notice about that tree is diseased, or that tree is dead and it's leaning, and we don't, in a timely manner, get something done, then we face the possibility of being responsible for that. So that's the concept of constructive notice. If we're noticed that there's a tree that's diseased, or it's dying or it's leaning and it's creating a threat to public property, the road particularly, most likely that tree is going to get cut down. We're not arborists. We're not in the business of decorative tree trimming. You're not going to get an arborist to come out and say, oh, that tree is fine, or cut that limb off and the tree's going to be good. I saw the picture of the tree you sent me. That's got to be a 100-year-old, 150-year-old tree. It is a massive tree. And it is beautiful. But it also has a limb that has fallen out of it, and And so I'm on a fine line here. Do I have constructive notice about this tree? Or, where am I at with this? Just know that if you make a formal complaint about this tree, there's a very good chance that I'm gonna have it cut down, because I can't afford the liability of a tree falling on a person, on a vehicle, falling across the road. I can't afford that. Not afford it dollar-wise, I can't afford to put the county in jeopardy, is what my position is. I don't like cutting down trees. I don't. But I also don't like having to respond to claims when the tree has fallen. So it's a very difficult position to be in. I don't want to cut the tree down, but if you feel, and the community feels, that it is a threat and it is a problem, then that's probably what's going to happen. So I don't need an answer here, but I want you to be mindful of the process that I have to go through in making a decision on what I'm going to do with that tree. And it's unpopular. It can be very unpopular. But I'm also very unpopular when I don't do something, and you talked about this the last couple of winters. We've had a lot of claims for trees that have fallen, and I'm sorry, the tree fell. It was 80-mile-an-hour winds after 36 inches of rain on Cobb Mountain. The ground's wet, the wind's blowing. I'm sorry that tree fell, but it did. So I'm not answering the question, but I'm answering it. I'm trying to tell you where I'm at, and I'm happy to discuss it and take a look at things and go from there.
Does the county have an arborist or anyone that could evaluate that tree?
No.
They don't? Okay.
No.
I don't know who it was, so I know the people who live in the house directly in front of the tree, or behind the tree, and they said that somebody was there the other day and looked at it, confirmed it was dead and that it's dangerous. So I don't know if that was somebody from the county, because they said that they were going to contact their superior, so I thought it was the county, since EJ had said something about it to you prior. But I know that the people there are pretty concerned. They've had limbs fall in their yard already and almost hit their car. So that's just a note. Somebody has gone out there and looked at it, and they spoke to them.
Okay. Yeah, and if it was one of my staff, and like I said, the foreman for this area he lived in Upper Lake, and he knows this area pretty well, and he's a tree guy, and if he comes in and tells me that he thinks that tree's dead and that it's a danger, it's gonna come down. We won't do it, just so you know. We can cut a lot of things, but we don't have the capacity or the skill to do a tree like that. We'd have to hire that out, and we'd take that tree down. Yes, sir.
We're just that tree specifically, because as I understand, it being a walnut, its burl and root system would be burrowed by now, right? Pretty significantly, if not under the roadway, potentially under the sidewalk. And something I've been thinking of a lot is, as you walk down that road a little further, there are other, probably they were started at the same area, walnuts, that are now past, and they're just stumps. And in some cases, they're in their elder years as stumps. They're falling apart, their roots are cracked, and I just wonder if we have to balance that, what we're concerned with of the tree falling in relation to the full absence of the tree as a living, or even kind of fighting its way through its elder years, because that root system underneath, once that tree is gone, that root system, it will still have to stay there, because
Right.
there's not really I don't think that I know of a tree faller that can remove not just the burl, but the actual roots itself as well. And so that's something that we have to consider, because that area for its sidewalk. It's a significant portion from the property line to the actual roadway. It's like 15, 18 feet. And that extends the entire length on both sides. So that would be potentially disrupted. And otherwise, if the tree falls in its natural form, it'll obviously be disrupted. So it's kind of a which one, where, how to, but that's obviously up to homeowners and residents to decide, yeah.
My guess is this, my guy that went and looked at that tree. It'd be my guess. I was out of the office Thursday and Friday. Today was an absolute mess, so I haven't got a report from anybody, but I will ask as a result of tonight's meeting. I'll certainly ask the question tomorrow, and did anybody go and take a look at that? And if it was Daniel, and he says, yeah, that tree's bad, then we'll be on finding a tree company, and it's, you know, I got to get 3 quotes. I got to, you know, that whole thing. But you know, I would expect to see that tree come down in the next few weeks.
Cool.
I don't know if was them or not, but I know PG&E's guy goes around and marks trees with the white things and stuff like that, and they just just a little bit ago came down our street again. Last year they cut down some trees, and just a few weeks ago they were down there marking trees again with the white. So I don't know if that would have been them or not.
Yeah, I don't know. It's possible. We'll find out. If it wasn't my guy, then it was a PG&E person for sure. I mean, that would be the only 2 people wanting to look at a tree, but you know, obviously for different reasons. Ours is safety of the motorists and the road, and theirs is the safety of their lines.
Yeah, it seems like one of those things too. Like I mentioned it at the last board meeting, and it's germane because the situation that Scott mentioned about either the tree being cut down or they don't cut the limbs. I was speaking with animal control recently and some folks on the advisory committee, and they always bring a pet of the week, right? And when they bring this pet of the week, it's a cute little puppy, this and that. And so we can't, it's hard getting veterinarians, and it's hard getting people to volunteer. Well, the thing is that when you have a vicious dog call, what happens is they have to take that dog and put it in the pound or put it in the animal control. Well, the cute little puppy that's sitting there in the pound still trying to get adopted has to be euthanized. And so that's one of those catch-22s as well. It's kind of similar to what you're talking about, Scott, where you either got to cut the tree down or, you know, or it falls and then there's a claim. So I don't know, and that's where it's for our group here, the advisory group, to help me like figure out some way to find a policy or some sort of you know, legislation that can help these guys with those types of catch-22s. So I don't know if there's something I can do, Scott, I mean, and bring to the board to try to give you some tools, but otherwise, with the lack of resources we have when it comes to people and their jobs, people in the positions, recruiting, retention, it's either that or that, right? So, yeah.
Right. Well, and I think just at a minimum, having organizations like this where you have community interested folks who know the roads, know the people that tree. Well, let's just stay with the trees. You know, that these trees are affecting. Bringing that stuff to our attention. If you have a concern, I think that's again, we're not going to do it. We're going to have to hire it out because of the scope of that tree. But it's part of our job, and we've got to get that done. And I don't want to wait for it to fall. They never fall between 8 and 5 Monday through Friday. They always fall at 2 o'clock in the morning when it's pouring down rain, and they get a PG&E line, and now I got lines in the road, and it turns into a giant mess. And so if something is a problem, I need to know about it, number one, and then we'll deal with it. And yeah, there are going to be folks who are not going to be happy that tree came down. But like I said, it's kind of like being an umpire. You're going to make half the gym mad, you know, or an official, you're going to make half the gym mad. But you know, I got a job to do, and I appreciate the input. I really do, and the perspective, because everybody's got, everybody's got a little different perspective. You know people, the owners, tree almost fell on a guy's car. The picture that he sent me, there's a limb sitting there, and there's a pretty nice little truck sitting right there. Well, if that limb fell where it did, it missed that truck by about 10 feet from the picture. So the next limb might not miss. So, and I don't know if anyone here who owns that truck, but I wouldn't park underneath that tree.
I pick her up for work every morning.
Okay, well, I wouldn't park underneath that tree.
That tree looks sketchy.
I think for me, from my perspective, is just knowing and understanding your point of view, because there's no way, if people think about it, we can expect the county to come out every year and trim up a tree so it doesn't keep happening. Yours is to mitigate the problem now and not have to go back, because you can't go back to everybody's tree every year.
That's right. You're absolutely right. And I appreciate that you got that from, I wasn't as straightforward as you were there, and I appreciate that clarification. But you're right.
Hi, my name is Marcelo. Going back to the tree, they have come out. They picked up all those limbs that were on the sidewalk and inside my property. I'm one of the people affected, and the next door neighbor. The county guy said he was gonna get bids. He was gonna have it cut. But then, like you said, there's a neighbor up the street, and he says, no, you're not gonna cut it. It's a historical tree. So it might be a bit of a problem, but they're working on it. I heard that they're getting bids. So thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Ryan.
And so what happens is when it comes to the board, commonly some of these things come as consent, but if that person's really like concerned about it and doesn't want it to come down, they're gonna come and try to pull it. But that's where you all will come and say how it's a danger to you all and how it can, right?
And not to correct you, but on this particular case, I'm not gonna come to the board with this. I'm gonna go get my 3 bids and I'm gonna award a purchase. I'm gonna give a purchase order to the lowest responsible bid, and I'm not gonna come to the board.
If I don't have to be an umpire, I'm happy too, so.
Yeah. I'm not gonna plant any trees in there, sir. I got enough problems with trees. I'm gonna plant a plastic one. And even that thing will fall over someday. But yeah, no, unfortunately, I'm not gonna plant any trees.
One thing I know, Scott, we've talked about before, and I'm only bringing this up because I'm letting them know kind of what I told Earth. And you've been to the Upper Lake meetings as well, and Clear Lake Oaks, where they're talking about the schools and the crosswalks and, what do they always talk about, road bumps, things like that. Well, recently I drove through Clear Lake High School. I haven't been back there for a while. I took that one road, I forgot what it's called, but I think it's Hartley. And I seen that they had a RRFB, Rapid Rectangular Flashing Beacon, and we talked about that because there's a Caltrans project going through Highway 20 that's going to take place. And so I asked Kevin Ingram of the city of Lakeport, what did you guys do to get that? And he says, we got a Safe Schools grant and it worked out. And a lot of times these municipalities, they can actually get grants more expediently than we can. So I asked him, give me the prices on those. I still have cannabis discretionary funds, and so rather than me saying, hey, Scott, let's try to get a grant for rapid, because then it takes him and his department and his grant writer as long as it does to try to get the grant, and if they don't get it, they just now spent all that time on it. Where with this, I'm thinking that with each school, he said they're roughly under 20,000. If I can get one for each town and each school, and then if I have the product, then I can make a ticket with the department. They have no problem doing that, but then they don't have to worry about getting the funds or going out and finding any bids or anything like that. It's just on, it's a cooperative that I'm going to try to do. So I'm still waiting. I'm working with Kevin to finish that up. As soon as I get the amounts, I want to at least get one in each town by the schools so that we have something, because every meeting I go to, it comes up, and I'm pretty sure it hasn't come up yet again, but it will, because the people speed on these roads and whatnot. So I wanted to let you all know that, because I did say it at East Region Town Hall. I said it at Upper Lake as well. And so, and I've talked to Scott about it, just letting him know that I'm going to work on that, because I realized there's been a couple times I've come to Scott, and it's like, I already know, like, if I have to go through that, then I have to go to the board, and then I have to convince 2 others that are like, wait, I have the same problem, what about me? And then we're doing that. So I'm going to try to use what I have of the discretionary cannabis funds to take care of that issue. So just letting you all know that I'm working on that, and we've talked about it too, so.
That would be great.
So let me throw this out. We have one of those grants. We have a Safe Routes to School grant, and it's for rapid reflective or rapid rectangular things. If that Upper Lakes, if you're talking about this school that's down here, if that school is not, and I would be surprised if it's not, but if it's not in that project, then what I'll offer is I'll include it with the other sites. You can help me with the funding on it. Then we'll get it done during that other project. Okay? All right.
Will there be any input as to its location? Like Country Club in Ogden or
Normally,
Country
we
Club
put
in
'em where there's-
17th? Or?
Normally, we put them where there already is one, if there is one there. There isn't one there? Okay. All right.
Nope.
Yeah, because normally you put them in at an existing crosswalk. So if there's even a crosswalk missing, then I can almost assure you it was not included in that grant project, because we targeted existing walks or crosswalks. So we'll have to do an analysis of which would be the best place to put that. Probably work with the school and figure out
That's what I was
where-
gonna say, survey the parents or
which
the.
way are the kids coming? Are they coming down? Are they coming down? They coming down on the north side of the road and then crossing at the school, or are they following Country Club on the south side and now they got to get across whatever street that is there? So we can work with the school and figure out which route would be best to put that on.
And do you have the ability to just put in crosswalks? Or is that like some, without having the flashing signage?
Yeah, we do. I don't like crosswalks at mid-block where there's no control without something much more significant. So for example, a crosswalk across Country Club where they're at mid-block or where there's no controls would not be something that I would be in favor of, because motorists don't expect it. They expect crosswalks at controlled intersections. You put one in the middle of mid-block, they're typically pretty dangerous. So I don't like doing that. Any other questions? Well, I appreciate, again, the opportunity to be here and talk with y'all. Again, please call. And anyone, if you have issues, trees, potholes, call that main number. That way we know that your complaint goes into the system, is something that gets tracked. And again, there's a little competition between these foremen. They like to get those things done so that I don't get a report at the end that there were a bunch of unaddressed service requests. I'm not that bad, but they take great pride. The foremen that manage your roads, and especially the foremen in this district, they're all proud of what they do. But these roads are home to Daniel, so he takes it very, very seriously.
And what was that number again for the?
263-2341. That's the main number to Public Works Department.
I'll make sure to throw it in the minutes.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you for coming and answering our questions and giving us an update and all of that. It was very enlightening.
You're welcome. Happy to be here.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Scott.
No action on that needed. So item number 4, you're up. Discussion and possible action, including acceptance of an update from Supervisor Crandall.
All right, so let's see. There we go. Oh, garbage day. Remember we talked about that? 18th is perfect. So that date that we talked about in May, perfect date. You guys will have a town hall right before it. So we could even just do some last minute, strategizing, but it's basically going to be the same as last year. Michelle Goodman had said that's a great date, asked if it's the same setup, if they need anything else, they'll let me know, but it'll be the same thing. So now we have us all together knowing, and we can get a hold of Dan and he'll be pretty happy. And we'll get another flyer out for that whole situation and have another dump day, yeah. So,
That'd be great.
yeah. Yeah, it'll be at May 18th, Saturday. Yeah, it's a big long day, long week for me. I'll be coming back from Monterey, and then I'll also be going to the Bloody Island ceremony, and then coming here, and so I'll probably be no sleep that weekend or week. So it is what it is. But I love those. We 18,000 pounds last year plus. I mean and I'm pretty sure with a lot of notice now, we're going to get a lot, like probably more than that. So. So yeah, that's good, and I'm glad that we were able to, to Michelle. I emailed her from the meeting here, and she's like, "Yeah, ready. I'm out of town, but she's willing to do it." So, yeah.
Will you be able to put that on the C.R.T.H Facebook page?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and so if that's what I was thinking is places for advertising.
Yeah, I'm going to touch base with her one more time, either
trash
tomorrow
we
or
get, the
Wednesday, just to
better.
get the finalized. And then that way we can start putting it out there because it's basically a month. Yeah, so that way we have a full month to know. So I'll either talk to her tomorrow or Wednesday to finalize everything, and because it's basically the same thing. It shouldn't change too much. And I did reach out to the castle as well. So, but they haven't confirmed, but I'm pretty sure we can get that. Yeah. So. Because I didn't want to do the road thing. We were looking at 13th Avenue. Oh man, that would have been crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so there's that. Any more questions about that, or? No. Let's see. You heard about? I was surprised Scott offered that. That's great. That's good news. At least we can get some more of those, and we can probably do another dump day now because we don't have to spend on another beacon. So. Area plans, you all know probably they're having area plans here tomorrow night, right? Is it tomorrow night? Yeah, so they're starting those area plans. We have a group as well that was put together for the whole county, GPAC, General Plan Advisory Committee. There's also going to be what's called area plan, local area plan packs or whatever it's called, and I'll read it to you so that way it's not me just guessing and stumbling around with. It's called the LAPAC, Local Area Plan Advisory Committees to support the because these area plans, they're outdated, especially the one in the shoreline, and that's where Lucerne falls into, the shoreline area plan. And so there's going to be there's going to be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 folks that are going to be on these advisory plans. The only downside for C.R.T.H and Earth is that it's in the same area plan. I know that to Earth, the group from Clear Lake Oaks really wants to have their own area plan, and they're really pushing that, but they'll be here tomorrow night to be a part of what's going on with the GPAC. So there's going to be a representative, 4 at-large representatives, a business owner, 1 person from C.R.T.H, 1 person from Earth, and then environmental, and then a tribal representative. And so, I think we have time. It's not like it's going to be, they're going to be appointed right out the gate. They're going to be applications when they go out. We'll have to make sure that you all know so that if there's who you want to decide to be on it from the committee for the area plans. Yeah.
I don't know if you know, but initially we had planned for tomorrow's meeting to be a joint meeting.
Yeah.
Earth backed out of that, so it's actually just C.R.T.H tomorrow. They have a second date. I think theirs is in
May 1st.
May. Yeah. So they're not, I don't know if maybe they're just going to attend, but I guess
They
they
will.
didn't want to do the joint meeting thing for some reason.
They're still going to send a couple because they got their May meeting. But I know that they do, right, as of right now, the way it's written, they're still part of the shoreline area plan. I think the goal for them is they want to end up having their own plan because they feel that basically Clear Lake Oaks, High Valley, Spring Valley, Double Eagle, Windflower Point, Clear Lake Park, all has its own area per se, and of course, naturally, Lucerne has its own as well. And a lot of people are saying Nice and Lucerne should be put together.
Yeah.
But, that's maybe something we gotta, in these meetings, this is probably something we need to accentuate as well. So, and that's why I'm so glad that they're doing this though, because they did have the GPAC, or the General Plan Advisory Committee for the whole general plan, but having the area plan, they were really skeptical because it's 72 positions, so that's going to be appointed throughout the county because you have the Kelseyville, the Rivieras, Lakeport, Middletown, Cobb, Lower Lake, Shoreline, Upper Lake, Nice. And so yeah, it's going to be a big thing, but it's good it's getting done. A lot of them are outdated. It also gives you all the opportunity to determine what gets built around the area and whatnot. What's zoned properly, and like when we had situations with people in Dollar General, I know there's a lot of folks that were like, no Dollar Generals. Well, if you go to the area plan, you can put some verbiage in or some limitations in so that they would have to either follow your guidance in these area plans or they wouldn't build. But or you just bring them to town halls and NIMBY them to heck. That's what we did in Upper Lake. And that happened, oh, that's right, that did happen, because they were going to put it where that dump was the dump's gone now, right? Yeah, so, but yeah, that's where they were going to do the Dollar General there, so, yeah. But that's, right now, that's the only measure we have to do it, is to get it to appeal at the board level, or just don't even get them to the board or planning commission by making them come to these. Which, if you had a supervisor that was like, no, I love Dollar Generals, then it's like, but luckily, I only use the ones that we have already. I'm not worried about any other ones. So that's what the area plan committees are going to be. And so, but everyone's still invited to come, and they're encouraged to give input and comment. So it's not just for the people that are appointed. They're just the ones that are highly interested in being part of that. Just kind of like how you all are on the advisory committee for here. So, but naturally, anyone can come in and be like, no, I want to see this, and I'm sure that the group's going to take it into consideration and put it in there. So yeah, so just wanted to mention that. So I don't know if you all have a preference on who's going to be on, but we have some time. Yeah. Let's see. Foothill PG&E. Yeah, a lady came and said there was a problem on Foothill. I don't know if you remember, or if you guys know where that's at. Those wires were coming down. There's a new PG&E representative, and he's supposed to be dealing with it as of right now. I think that's what I have for now, so I'll just leave it for questions. If there's any. Priest.
I just got a suggestion. The information that the gentleman gave us, like when it comes to the potholes and the myths that happen in the area, kind of like push it on the Facebook, make a flyer like, well, based on this, in the winter, we use this type of pothole filling, and this is the reason why, to try to stop. I mean, the more information we give people, the better. Like, I didn't know that information, right? It stops me from talking in my little street with my people, like, oh, no, that's not true.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, just expect for it to fall, kind of go around it, and then during the summer, we make a this is a number we call. It's kind of like a little steps for the area, because otherwise, they're just going to keep getting frustrated, inside the houses. So if you could create a page, I don't know if we're allowed to send flyers to, every home, or just where we post them, but I just think that information will help us out more with the alleviation of more questions than, need be sometimes. I didn't know it, and I was like, oh, wow, that's interesting. Even with the tree. People don't understand, like the tree, like if it's potential danger, all I do is put that little ticket in. you know, and they could come out and assess it, you know, and it'll make it easier for people to understand, you know, especially when you buy a house and you're like, dang, I gotta put with that tree. It's like, we don't understand that tree, like that tree, you know, if you're not testing, you're not getting it corrected, like that's gonna fall in here, especially with the rainfall that we have up here. You know, prevention is very great as long as we know, hey, make a ticket to these people. You know what I mean? Even if you're suspect about the tree. Because I was gonna buy a piece of property on First in that little studio, but I looked at that redwood tree and I was like, no, that's gonna cost me more than this piece of property, you know?
I should have done that. I got one on the back hill of my house.
Yeah.
Dude, up on Panoramic.
Yeah.
And every time there's a storm, I'm just like, I get my girlfriend and my cats in the other room because
I do the same
I'm like,
thing,
where
my
would
little
it fall?
walnut,
Yeah.
My little walnut, I make sure people need to know, like, hey, trim that, you know, trim that. The more information, the better, like, you know, and then like when you're talking about dump runs, do we have people to help with the places that, you know, like me and my mindset is like, oh, I got a couple staff, I'll send a truck over and see how many phone calls I could get to try to, you know, take the trash that we talk about trash all day long, but there's some elders here that aren't capable of doing it. And that's the point where I'm just like, we should have a little team of at least 6 volunteers with 3 trucks to at least make a little effort to help them, because they're the ones that never reach out, but they're the most ones that are that need it the most, right? The ones that can't even take their trash to the front of their road. You know what I mean? We don't know how many elders we have that need that type of service, but we're getting mad at them for all the trash. You know, so I'm just thinking outside the box, how we could, you know, make use of what we can with social media and these piece of papers on doors, you know, because we can't depend on elders. And I'm sorry, I talk about elders because they're the most needed sometimes and underserved, you know, in this community, because Lucerne is, to me, it was somewhere to retire. That's the way I looked at it. Yeah, right? Yeah. I'm comfortable on my road. Yeah. Sorry.
You know, that's perfect. That's actually good. I can talk with Lori about putting that up, and then when she gets that, I can post it on your Facebook. But then, like you said, getting flyers out to people. That's going to be that's what we have to do. I mean, because some folks aren't just going to be online. They're not going to. All age groups. Some people just don't want to. They want to have mail or they want a flyer. You know, so.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Weren't you planning on another like pack and mail
Yeah.
flyer?
Yes.
So we could
Yeah.
have some more information
Yeah.
on there, right? Maybe a bigger card.
Yeah, we could do
Then-
that. We could
then
just
the-
do a page folded in half or something that, I'm sure that Pack and Mail they'll help now that we're in their system, for how they do it. We can do that.
Yeah, because if you're going to do that, then maybe we'd just have some little sections, not really like a newsletter, so to speak, but, you know, like you'd mentioned about issues with roads. Here's contact information. You know, here's our dump day. You know, any of those issues that, you know, come up frequently or that people have questions about.
Important fridge info.
Yeah, there you
Just
go.
Throw,
Yes.
throw a magnet on there and
Yes.
it's
Oh, that'd
kind
be
of,
awesome.
kind of everything that's.
I mean,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
what we do. We got the ad magnet with directly step by step. Just do this real quick, and 9 out of 10 times they'll still call. You know what I mean? As long as they got a phone number to call, they'll be happy.
That's like with the garbage, like when they'll come and give that education, the waste solutions, and it's like, oh, I didn't know that. You know, you can put 1 or 2 big items out and things like that. But I was thinking about when you said that too, about the trailers. I remember last year, I think Atlas and a couple others were going and getting people's garbage just because they didn't have a way to get it there, but they wanted to, and so that's.
No, I just helped out some friends and family that I know in the area, but I did talk to EJ about how this year I think it would be cool, you know, as soon as we start advertising it, to get some sort of sign up or a list or something, and then just kind of divide it up. Like Bree said, if we can get 6 or 7 people, you know, here's your quadrant, you're going to be helping this group of folks out, you know, and just kind of really try to plan it. That way we can be as quick and efficient that day as possible.
Right.
I think I get like 1 free trailer rental a year or something based on my, I don't know, tractor supply rewards or something. But I plan to look at that, you know, and I know my dad has one too that I could probably borrow and see if that's something that I can also set up so we can just do more at once and just kind
Yeah.
of get it done.
Yeah, that'd be good. And another thing to add to that is, and I'm gonna get the actual verbiage or the actual ruling where a nonprofit that does take garbage to the site like they'll have some sort of, you bring the receipt and show you're a nonprofit, you don't have to pay for the dumping fees. But I want to get that rather than say it's okay and then you guys go and say, hey, I'm a nonprofit, and they're like, oh no, that's not true. So I'm going to make sure I get that for you so you know, and have that available, because I remember discussing it in a board meeting before, because we have, I think, Citizens Caring for Clear Lake. Do you remember? I think they came here one time, and so they're also part of what started these dump runs over in Clear Lake. They're part of the group, the brainchild to that. So yeah, and they cover Sulphur Bank Road over there. That's another dump site you probably all know. So yeah, let me get that. I'm going to put that on my list for next month, so that just to have for future knowledge, nonprofits that can dump and whatnot, because that may be another way to help with this. But yeah, no, thank you, Priest. That actually, I think that they have a good response with the Facebook. Lori Price is her name. She's always on there talking about, so if we could get her to post something on there for people to see, just that educational knowledge, that'd help. And anything that the county puts out, I'll push it out. And I think some of you have access to it too. If you ever see anything on there, just by any means, you have the availability to just push anything out as well. So yeah, that's why I try to give the town halls, I know Earth, they're not concerned about it, so I have to do it for them, but I know you all have that capability, so, or you guys do social media, so yeah. So yeah, I've it written down too, so I'll make sure. Thank you.
All right. Anybody have any other questions for Supervisor Crandall? Nope. You got something else to say?
Harbor's still it's still on the path. It's on the, I just talked to Lars again, and he's like, yep. So, yeah. Yeah, next month I should have something better to report than that, but
Okay.
yeah.
Great.
It hasn't fell off the, like last time, and then like, oh, it's July. Hey, I thought it was going, and then we're like, no. But he's like, no, I got it out. I got it ready. So. Yeah.
Okay. All right, moving on to item number 5, public comment. A citizen has up to 3 minutes to provide input on any item not appearing on the agenda. These items can often be further discussed on a future agenda if the CERT Council agrees to add it for a future item. All right.
Jeez, I hate talking so much. Someone brought to my attention the need for the fire department gets a lot of their money and funding, if I'm correct. Becky can address this a lot better than me, but there have been 2 failed attempts to get funding, which I believe they get their funding from property taxes like the schools, and the 2 failed attempts that out in the public, I don't think it was presented right, because everybody thought, oh, they're going to get a bunch of money and give raises and do all like this, and they thought, oh, it's a lot of money. And I think this needs to be done again, because Becky pointed out to me there's times when we don't have a paramedic because they can't afford to pay for one. We have a fire department 2 blocks away. If they have no paramedic there, we just as well not have it. So maybe Becky can, if it's presented a little bit better and more understanding, I really think it could pass, like point out that it's not that much money per person, and that the money is only going to be spent for this. So I would like to know if Becky or somebody from the fire department could, I'd like to see it tried again to get the money.
Under announcements, I'll put on my other hat.
Okay, and one of the reasons why I said that is today here at the senior center. We do our lunches during Tuesday through Friday and things, and Red Cross gave us 2 defibrillators, one over there in the wall and one in our office. And today, 6 of us took training, 5-hour training on this. I'm 73 and I was the second youngest person. So, and while we were doing this training, I was thinking, because then you have to do some of this until paramedics arrive, until paramedics are, you know, and all that like this. And I'm thinking, I can't even say we're only 2 blocks away from help. If we have 2 of our people are 80 years old, how long are they going to be able to keep doing this until they bring over a paramedic from Lakeport or someplace? So it really got my attention on how important it is. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I did forget to just say one more thing, because I know fire insurance or house insurance, home insurance, homeowners insurance is an issue. Of course, they're working on their legislation here and there, and I don't have any really updates about that. They're still pushing those through. But I've reached out to a friend of mine who does insurance in Lucerne. He does insurance for, I want to say death, you know, end of life. And so I was like, hey, do you know anybody I could talk to that does this type of thing? And he put me in touch with somebody from the East Coast. And so they had reached out to me and asked me for, after we talked about it for about a month and a couple meetings, they had said, I just need a couple examples of homes that I could look at and see what we can do. Because they know it's a national situation, but they didn't realize, I was like, people are pulling out. People don't have insurance. They're just left without. And if something happens, then we're just without. And so they just asked me for a couple examples. I got one example for them, someone in the hills, because that's where first it's happening. And then I know that there's some people in town that have lost their insurance as well. So I'm just letting you know that I'm working on that as a side thing, trying to see if there's something that someone else that's not from around here would be like, yeah, we'll do it. And because I explained how, fireproofing your house, making sure that you have fireproof houses, having your vegetation clipped, having your roofs of, they have a specific type of paint that you could use, things like that. Because what the risk versus the hazard is better to think about, right? If it's a hazardous area, I mean, to me, I looked at it like this. This is what I said to them. I'm like, how come in the Bay Area you don't charge them more car insurance? Because they're in traffic, they're going to wreck. Someone always got a bumper, a bumper, someone's hitting somebody in traffic. So here, I mean, yeah, we have the same risk, but it's not, or the hazard, but it's not happening to most homes. So that's what stirred up the conversation to keep moving on with it. So I got a couple of properties in mind that I'm going to let them look at, and I'm hoping that we can get some. I have to try something because, what else is there? I mean, we keep bringing the state over to the county and talking to us about what the insurance commissioner is going to do, and we just kind of get stuck at, well, it's not good enough for us. And then the people that come are like, it's not good enough for us. We're not going to survive off of that. So just letting you know that I am actively working on that.
Thank you. Any other public comment? All right, hearing none, we'll go to announcements number 6. Does anybody have any announcements? Anything going on in the area we need to be aware of? Yes.
Maybe the recent fires. I know there was another one on 13th last month. Some of the homes are getting torched. The one on 12th by the gas station. I don't know, it seems like these houses are getting torched. Looks like a problem.
Yes. Unfortunately, I'm not at liberty to discuss some of that stuff. But just as far as announcements go, there is a North Shore Fire Board meeting that is on Wednesday at 2 p.m., this coming Wednesday, so the 10th. It's at 2 p.m., not a convenient time for most folks. It is at Station 80 on 7th Avenue. And if you have any concerns, you certainly can bring them up at public comment and during public comment, which happens at the very beginning of our meeting. And so perhaps somebody, you could request to have something put on the agenda. And then just a quick bit of history about the previous tax measures. They were put on the ballot in 2018 and 2019, and they both failed. And then as far as Lucerne goes, there hasn't been and this is most of North Shore, but there has not been a property tax, or a fire tax increase in 25-ish years, somewhere around there. Lucerne residents pay $60 per parcel for their fire tax, their fire insurance, and you all know how much things have gone up in the last 25 years. And so it is really hard with the current income, plus there is a disparity in other communities. For example, neighboring Nice, a lot of those parcels, because they're different fire tax areas, or different tax areas, I should say, they pay $45 a parcel. So, and it varies from town to town. And so trying to keep up with wages, much the same that I know that Supervisor Crandall has had to deal with other county employees, trying to maintain competitive wages to neighboring counties, and here in the North Shore, just trying to maintain competitive wages to neighboring districts. So that's just a little bit of history, and like I said, if you have anything that is concerning to you, you would like to address to the board, that is on Wednesday at 2 p.m.
So the $60 per parcel here in Lucerne, now does that money go strictly to pay the fire people in Lucerne?
It goes into the fire department's general fund. But that is a tax that is assessed by the county. EJ could probably, it's within your property tax bill.
So when you say, so when it's put on the ballot, is that for the entire county or for just certain North Shore?
The last two measures were just for North Shore, which includes Spring Valley, all the way out to Blue Lakes.
Highway 20, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
So tomorrow's board meeting, it's a real short agenda, but it's not short because we're doing interviews for Social Services Director, who's retiring, Water Resources Director, which is Scott, who's also the Public Works Director, who's retiring. And so tomorrow we'll be doing those two interviews, and then I think either next week or the week after, we also are losing our special districts administrator as well. So 4 key positions within the next couple of weeks we'll be hiring for. So just letting you all know that too.
Thank you. And then remember that we have the special meeting tomorrow night, same time, same place. So, anybody have any other announcements? All right. Thanks. We adjourn.